I use analogies, metaphors. Jesus used parables. All we can really do is talk about what things are like. It's really impossible to describe them exactly. So we tend to use metaphors and analogies. Ego is, I use this gesture. The teacher Adida used this gesture to summarize what the activity of ego is. And he used the word Narcissus. It's a turning inward. Narcissus is a Greek tragic figure who falls in love with his reflection in a pool, and he doesn't realize that the reflection is himself, and he just gets occupied with his own image and dies. And that's perhaps tragic, I would say it is. A flower does grow there where he died, and we call that the Narcissus flower, so maybe it's good fertilizer. This life is sometimes comically referred to as a terminal sexually transmitted disease. And it sounds pretty depressing, but it's true. They say death and taxes are the two things you can avoid. Taxes, I don't know, I can't really help you there. But the death thing, we want someone to help us with that, so we turn to religion conventionally. And usually what we're offered is a set of beliefs. Like if you just believe in the high holy muckety-muck, you're going to be fine, and send your checks to the following address or whatever. Most of that is just another form of slavery, where we get further and further enmeshed in this logic that I'm calling ego. It has to do with, I could say, taking self seriously. The gesture to me is really good. It kind of sums it up. The way I experience it is a thought arises, and there's a tendency to want to attach to the thought and say me or self or I. You know, you could put different words in there. And I make this face because it's not a happy thing. It's a contracted, limited, and death-filled object. The Buddha talked about his teaching as a medicine for a patient who's ill. The teaching is really about the destruction of this illusion that who we are is the thing that's born and dies, the Narcissus object. It's caused by grasping to a false identity. And it's basically attaching to thoughts as if they were true. And it manifests in many different ways. I've used analogies like people who hoard. You could watch TV shows about it. It's pretty graphic. It's usually hidden, in these TV shows bring cameras into these homes, and it's hard to look at. It's usually some kind of denial, and often it's unprocessed grief and so on. And I feel compassionately oriented toward anyone who suffers from that or any kind of suffering. I've also talked about ego in terms of addiction, where it's a compulsive activity that we can't stop, at least not by ourselves. There are many different ways to look at this. There's a sense of self that's inadequate or, in a sense, powerless. So in AA, the first step is to admit that you're powerless. All that means is we're admitting that the self that we're attaching to can't handle it. That logic has run its course and is painted into a corner. I don't mean to be flip about it. It is very intense, the suffering involved in alcoholism. The addict, say the alcoholic, they either get better or they're going to die. So it's pretty serious. And ego is the same way, really. It's just, ego is the root of all dysfunction, all compulsive identification. It's like a poison tree. Imagine a tree. The root is the ego, and the branches are all these different compulsive disorders, for example. It could be hoarding, it could be alcoholism, it could be compulsive overeating. We have these serious disorders that have diagnoses in very sophisticated technical manuals that are really thick and most people don't read and require highly educated experts to tell us what they mean and so on. And we have garden variety worry and fear and regret and all of that, life is a pain in the ass. It's suffering. The first noble truth of Buddhism, life is suffering. The Buddha has his awakening. I think the first thing that comes to him is, oh man, how am I going to explain this to people? No one wants this. And then he decides to go ahead and teach. And the first thing is life is suffering. Existence is suffering. Dukkha. And dukkha is everything from your garden variety ennui, just like boredom, all the way to the worst suffering imaginable that we don't even want to think about. Things that we just shove away because they're too horrible. Maybe we watch horror movies to kind of remember some of these things and hope that there's a way out. We can turn the TV off and be glad that we weren't those imaginary people depicted in the horror film. I'm saying that this teaching is to liberate people from death, which is the primary form of suffering. We love birth. We celebrate, like, oh, birth, and it's like, oh, well, they get older and like, oh, put them over there, and then we laugh to keep from crying. It's a compassionate outreach, this thing that I call the teaching. There's one tree, the tree of life. It's really the tree of birth and death. I make this gesture, like birth, oh. In Buddhism, the idea is it's a cycle. So after we think, oh, I'm dead, finally, oh, I get some peace. No. The Advaita Vedanta teaching on that is, they call them sheaths. And there's a physical body, and that dies. But the mental body, which is usually called the subtle body, or at least part of the subtle body, the thoughts and feelings that no one else has direct access to. They can touch our body, they have direct access to that. Only we have direct access to our thoughts and feelings. People may guess what we're thinking and feeling, or we could tell them, but we're the only ones that have direct access to it. That continues. When the physical body falls away, our mental habits continue. If we live our whole life as this self-contraction, attaching to thoughts, desire and aversion, it causes suffering. The second noble truth, the cause of suffering, is desire. You could say desire and aversion, because desire is wanting what you don't have, and aversion is not wanting what you do have. So it's some form of accepting or rejecting, and it's based in judgment that's caused by attaching to thoughts. The root attachment is what we call ego. It's attaching to a self that's born and dies. The word radical means of or pertaining to the root of something. So the teaching is radical in the sense that it gets to the very root of all suffering. The root identity. When I contemplate what this is, I allow it and it lets go. That gesturing, these are symbols. We're hinting at something because we can't say exactly what it is. It can't be spoken. So we're pointing. Use the pointer. The root is ego. So I'm saying we take the whole tree down. It's a poison tree. It's birth and death. It's suffering in all of its forms. It's radical. What we call life is really an illusion of grasping. I'm saying this teaching, which is the teaching of liberation from suffering, from ego, goes to the root of it, and it takes the whole thing down.